Quran isn't written to merely tell us stories. We should learn something from this book and its contents. The story of Noah and the community he lived in is what we want to talk about today. That community, based on what Quran says, had some characteristics that are so much like communities of end time. But what were those characteristics? Positivism is the first characteristic among that community, which means one only believes in what they can see. It relies only on observable facts. All of us, more or less, have this characteristic within us. Some people more, some other less. When Noah invited community to follow his path, elders of the community Noah lived in had such characteristic leading them to tell him, "You are merely a human being just like us and nothing more." In return, he used to reply, "I am a human being, but with a difference that I have some kind of connection with God." The elders also were telling Noah, "Your followers are from less privileged and underserved part of community. There is no luxurious and rich people around you." Normal people would ask Noah to prove his words and connection with God, but they would drown into positivism too much, to the point where they didn't even ask him to prove himself, and they rejected him right away. A Shia philosopher says, this kind of behavior comes from a unique mentality, a mentality in which one decide rejection of something merely because they cannot see it. But is it right to conclude absence of something just because we don't see it? It is right to say something doesn't exist because we cannot see it? Not at all. But unfortunately, this is the mentality of most people in communities nowadays. For example, people deny existence of some certain things mentioned in Quran just because they cannot see them. Things like spirit, God, afterlife, jinn, and so on. That's why Noah, in 𝚹𝚘𝚛𝚗𝚎 chapter, verse 27, answer them using visual verbs so they can understand by saying, "Maybe my God has some kind of connection with me, but you are too blind to see it." Were those people blind? Absolutely not. What he means by blind is mentally blind, not physically. Same situation will happen in end time. Who will find and stay in right path at end time? People who accept, believe, and love unseen. That's why God loved these people. Just like how Noah was inviting his people to the right path at that age to save them from the flood, Hussein is inviting us to the same path at this age to save us from the flood of madness we are facing in the world. Noah's invitation to save humanity from the flood took 950 years because God wanted to tell humanity that sometimes it takes decades to fix some behaviors in humanity, because changing mentality is hard to do and time-taking. Noah in Quran says, "No matter how hard and how much I told them to believe in God and choose the right path, they just didn't listen and tried everything to reject my invitation and denied me." When people wanted to murder Hussein at Karbala, they shouted loudly and refused to listen to him as he tried to guide them to the right path. They yelled, "We have prepared ourselves and traveled this far just to kill you, and we don't want to hear any of your words." Compare this situation to ours nowadays. Media doesn't let good people to speak the truth. When someone wants to speak the truth, they shut him off and doesn't let him speak, saying there are media and news industries out there telling people the truth. They created all those entertainment programs to distract our minds from the truth. Positivist minds who manage media don't let people find out what is truly happening in the world. The same thing happened in the past. People were affected by positivism to the point where they wouldn't listen to their prophets. Imam Hassan used to invite these people for lunch and speak his words while they were eating. Secularism and Machiavellianism are other mentalities that people had in Noah's time. Secularism means putting religion away, and Machiavellianism means putting aside morals in politics. This mentality contradicts teachings of all prophets, because they're talking about God, morals, and equality among people. Noah's community didn't want the prophecy itself because they believed it had no financial profit for them. They didn't comply with the orders of the prophet in running the society or allocating the money, and so on. Secularism is not opposed to having religion or believing in God in private. It states that the presence of God and prophecy in politics and society is dangerous if it harms our monetary and material calculations. Otherwise, there is nothing against it. This mentality overcame Islamic society after Muhammad and lead people to reject Imam Ali and choose a secular person as their leader. Looking at the world at this age, countries like USA and Israel are opposed to countries like Iran just because Iran don't accept secularism. They do consider God in their calculations. Most politicians of those two countries doesn't understand why Iran defending Palestine. They think there are some financial profits at backstage or somewhere, somehow. It might be true, but the main reason comes from considering God in their political calculation. They're doing it because defending the oppressed is an obvious humane action, and it's like a duty for Muslims. It is solely to defend Palestine against oppression and injustice. They're following Hussein's path because they know in this apocalyptic storm going on in the world, the only way to survive is to board on Imam Hussein's ark, just like how few people boarded on Noah's ark and saved from that storm. In Islamic ideology, defending oppressed against oppressor is called jihad, and dying in this way is called martyrdom. But in positivism, secularism, and Machiavellianism, everything have a different meaning and concept. Martyrdom and jihad will be seen as religious violence or suicide operation, while they are just to defend oppressed and fight injustice. Quran in Tawbah chapter answers, Allah has purchased of the believers their lives and their belongings, and in return has promised that they shall have paradise. To die for humanity and dying to protect oppressed is the most profitable action and gives you grand profits. Fun fact is that positivism and secularism accuse Islam and Muslims of being dangerous, while they themselves are hiding behind freedom of thought mask and committing so many crime and murder around the world. There are lots of these examples in the world, like when they beheading people in 21st century. Have USA ever criticized their actions? No, but they criticize Iran for defending Palestine. They don't even criticize Wahhabism for their brutal actions in Syria. What's the reason for this contradictory in behavior? Since their mentalities are based on money and profit, it's obvious that most probably they get profit from this massacre, from political aspect to financial profit by selling ammunition. While postmodernism has left more than 150 million people dead, and world wars has left more than 70 million casualties, they claim that Shia Muslims and prophesy are dangerous and violent. History says that Prophet Muhammad had only 1,100 to 1,300 dead in all his wars during 23 years of his prophecy. Yet they make propaganda that the Prophet acted very violently. They talk about human right all the time. But was it human right when an Iranian airplane full of innocent people was blown away by USA Navy? Was it human right when chemical weapons were given to Iraq to be used against Iran in their war? Even now, Iranian scientists are being targeted and assassinated if they find out they are making progress in science. Long story short, world powers assassinate and hurt human feelings in the name of human right.